All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold its monthly meeting for Thursday, February 9th, 2023 at 7 p.m. We're going to open with old business, the approval of minutes dated December 14th, 2022 and January 12th, 2023. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
To pass up on them for now, till the rest of the board is here.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, it is now 7:03. Our first item on the agenda is continued hearing of Sean Reynolds of 155 Birch Street, notice attached. I'm going to go ahead and read the Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 12th, which was continued to Thursday, February 9th, 2023, at the Abington Town Offices, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, on the petition of Sean J. Reynolds at 19 Charles Street, Abington, for a variance under 175-29, a frontage variance of 46 feet to allow a driveway into the lot at 155 Birch Street. This property is located on Assessor's Map 54, Lot 92, in the R20 zone.
I'm not sure you have to talk to the camera guy to see if he can get you in there.
Can I go to the corner with the podium so people can see?
You turn the podium around?
Well, he wants to move the podium down a little further. Can you move that camera with him? Is that good?
I want everyone to be able to see.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You all set, Sean?
Yeah. I'm shooting. Sorry. Is it good? Face it.
Turn it a little bit towards us, the camera's right here.
Okay. So give me a second to get here so people can see. Is that good? Thank you.
Well, you just want to make sure that you're in the camera.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Could you please state your name and address?
My name is Sean J. Reynolds. My address is 19 Charles Street, Abington, Massachusetts. I'm the president of 155 Birch Street LLC. I own the property. I also abut the property. I have been monitoring this situation for years. The proposal that I'm putting in front of the board tonight is my collaboration and knowledge of every meeting that's been held on this property in 20 years, meaning the neighbors, which I'm one of, and the concerned people of Abington, as well as the wetlands issues that they've brought to the attention, or that I brought to the attention to the civil engineers, the federal agencies. So the wetlands themselves not only have mass guidance, but they also have federal guidance because of my interception of prior proposals that were to build on the wetlands. So I'm trying to propose an over 55 community with 6 smaller one-level homes that are built on slabs so that we can provide for our elders an area where they can purchase a house as a couple after they sell their home for a higher value. They can come in to these houses if they purchase in an over 55 restricted deed, and they can live there on one floor receiving services that they need, and they can have a better quality of life for themselves over time that they're there. The reason for this particular proposal, where it really could be a 12 to 14 condo unit proposal, is because of the citizens' concerns about lights being flashed in their yard, excessive traffic, and the concerns for the wetlands. So tonight, I'm asking for a specific variance, which is frontage for a driveway. Now, I have 54 feet. I know that I require 50 feet for a road, a street, but I wanted to propose this first before going to the street and going to planning, because I felt that this was the least amount of impact for my neighbors when they brought their concerns. So, if we could just talk a little bit about the plot itself. Can I have the photograph, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Which photo is shown?
Should have been done earlier of my mother and her two sisters in the yard. There it is. All right, here we go. So this is my backyard, and as you can see, New England Art is back to the right corner over my mother's right-hand shoulder. That was her look when I did something wrong. It's quite fortified, and you might recognize my sister in her facial features. So as you look over that, if we could zoom in over her left-hand shoulder a little bit, you can see that the wetlands weren't there in the 1950s and 40s. In fact, that further, it looks like a tenement house, or the house there was probably for the railroad. And so it was a field. In fact, when Mr. Petrel and I met about a particular item, he looked out back when it was all wetlands and said, "I remember corn growing there." So if we could go back to the 1857 map, that's the big map. If you want to go. Sorry about this, I had to submit an extra packet. I apologize to the board.
1856.
It's the, keep going down, keep going down. It would have been in the first packet.
Let's stand on that end.
No, that's the town map. Nope. It's 1940. Keep going. That's not it. That's 75. There it is, right there. That's it. Yep, thank you. If you can enlarge in this, this was what our neighborhood was supposed to look like. As you can see, Charles Street is delineated, and so is Monroe. In the middle is James Street, a proposed street. Now, on the other side of the railroad tracks, there was supposed to be, as you can see clearly, about 27 homes or so, or 28, and right now rests 60 condos. On this side, we have the James Street. We have approximately, if we count it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lots. And the reason I point that out to the board is because I'm only asking for 6. Again, all of those lots would have frontage on that James Street. Even though not built, it's still a paper street, and I did submit the legal argument, which I'll get to shortly. So if we could go back to the Google overlook of the area. There you are. You can clearly see that the condo units, if we take a, you got to go closer up top. Keep going. There it is. Oh, stop. Just below the rail trail, you can see the condo units. Now, the condo units themselves were built on wetlands. So I have the original wetlands map, and I didn't get it in time, but I would like to submit it so that people could see if that was all right with the board. Is that acceptable, or? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can withhold for now, but basically, give me a moment. It's in plastic. Sorry about this. Might be with that other stuff. Well, I'll find it shortly, but I'm a little frustrated. Sorry, guys. So, hang on one moment, if I can. Sorry about this. So the original wetlands map shows clearly the wetlands for the condo area, which would be the blue stripe, and then the wetlands on the 155 Birch Street. The reason I show that is because, as you can see now, the condos were built on wetlands and they have a mitigation system in concrete, which is how they dealt with it on their side. On my side, if we could have the plan again. You can clearly see to the left, I've had them delineated twice. Once originally, when I came in with the arguments to not build on them, and then secondly for this proposal. As you can see, this whole area is not even being close to the wetlands, and that's why I only have to file the variance for the frontage. Now, if we could go back to the list of documents again, just to show everyone, so we can go through one by one. Thank you, Bill. So we saw first that it's supposed to be residential, according to 1847. Next one. We see that in 1977, there is the drawing with James Street there. And as you can clearly see, there are house lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one big lot to the left, as you see down in the left-hand corner. So that is the original file, or the original deed that I bought references this map for the area. So James Street has never been, in order to remove a paper street, you have to not only get signatures by all the abutters, you have to file a new map with the Registrar of Deeds, and it has not been done. If we can go to the next one. The next one is 1940, and you can clearly see the street again is delineated. Can we go to the next one, please? Again, I'm using the law which avoids, again, I know that some people have their opinions, et cetera, and I respect that totally. I'm trying to show you how this develops. If you could go down further, past that map. Past that. These are the types of homes I'm looking to put there. This is directly from Brockton's over 55 community. And as you can clearly see, they're single level. They're, again, one floor, and they're specifically for the over 55 people.
Excuse me, please. He has a right to speak. You people have a right to speak.
Yep.
Please.
You'll see that.
We want to get this done tonight, please. So could you please be quiet and let him finish?
All right. So I'm hoping that helps people see what I'm hoping to put out there. Next one. Again, this is where it comes across in terms of the variance. The property itself, and this is the Abington map currently, is burdened because of James Street. That's its specific burden, plus the actual wetlands that are there, but not really, because I lost frontage, or the property lost frontage, because James Street was never put in. However, James Street is still a viable option for putting something in. I'm trying to do a driveway to the right of Mr. Greeno's house. because I feel that would be less intrusive than using the street that I would have easement rights to. If we could go to the next one. So, basically, this is my filing, and the variance, the reason I'm asking for the variance is because I'd like for the board to consider my 54 feet plus the James Street frontage that would be on Birch, because I have an easement, and I submitted a legal document where I described distinctly how James Street frontage has not evaporated for me. If we could go to next. Keep going. All right. So this was, is this my quitclaim deed? Yes. This is my quitclaim deed. And again, I was conveyed the rights to James Street on the second page. Okay. All right. Again, it references the map in 1975. So if we go to the next one. Again, this is where I think this is the assessed value of the property. If we go to the next. We have the assessment sheet. Next. I'm trying to get to the other slides. These were all, I believe these are mostly yours, right?
This is the abutters list that you
Right.
submitted.
And is that the second packet as well, or? Because I'm trying to get to the James Street argument. Sorry about that.
Don't know if that's the check.
So, if I may, in terms of the argument itself that I put forward to the board. In the first section, I don't know if you want me to read this or what you would like. You would like it read? Okay. Chapter 48A, Section 10, authorizes local zoning boards to grant variances where, owing to the circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. I'm not looking to change the zoning. I want the zoning as residential. A little enforcement of the provisions in the ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. Desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw. Again, I describe 155 Birch Street is an oddly shaped property that is currently zoned as residential under Abington zoning law. And owing to the circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not generally the zoning district in which it is located, is entitled to a variance. Originally, this lot was to contain a, strike that, to contain at least 9 3-bedroom, 2-story homes that bordered James Street. If you take a look at the map from this, created James Street, and its existence continues to a 1975 map into the present deed. Additionally, James Street, not being built, is an inaction by the town to follow its own zoning law in Adams v. Brawley, and I cite the case. The lack of required frontage was the result of a government taken by an eminent domain, and the appeals court reasoned that the hardship was caused by an extrinsic fact or act of the public authority not within the landowner's control. Therefore, the frontage variance was upheld in that particular case. The lack of action by the town to construct James Street is a hardship created by the town and has eliminated at least 900 feet frontage, and therefore the shape of the parcel is entitled to a variance. The lot is also burdened by another hardship, wetlands that have developed over time. Once again, wetlands began to develop after the 1950s. I showed pictures of that. Subsequent to this time, The New England Art Building put in sewer beds, drained into the French Stream to the left of the lot, increasing water levels in the ground. In addition, the Patterson condos to the south of the lot were built on wetlands with a mitigation plan that has not been maintained since 1985. That's what's contributed greatly to the wetlands hardship of the area. The variance relief requested will not affect the wetlands as they're presently today, and will ensure the neighbors to the Wetlands Act responsibility to preserve the wetlands. It will also ensure the neighbors' trash, leaky motor vehicles, and yard waste are disposed outside the wetlands instead of dumped into them. The literal enforcement of the current zoning has created a financial hardship for the previous buyer, the current owner, and future owners. Financial hardship alone is not sufficient for a variance. However, the courts require financial hardship to inure to all owners of the land as a result of its unique condition. In this particular case, not merely the present owner, but the result of the owner's peculiar personal financial status. The variance be based only upon the circumstances which directly affect the real estate and not upon circumstances that cause personal hardship. The real estate itself, based in that argument, has a hardship because it cannot be used for residential purposes without some type of variance. In fact, the James Street that was never built has been the hardship for the current lot for many years, therefore little enforcement continues to create a hardship of the property. Desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or the purpose of such ordinance or bylaw. The relief will accomplish many positive things. One, it will avoid creating two streets with grantee rights less than 150 feet apart, meaning James, and if I build another street, there'll be two streets in. Next, James Street, although a paper street, runs to the left of the Greeno home on the map. A paper street is defined as a street shown on a recorded plan but never built on the ground. Thus, a conveyance bound by a paper street is fully capable of imbuing the grantee, reserving to them either express rights of way or rights of way by implication. In addition to the street, if the street were required instead of the driveway, again, another street with grantee rights would be built to the right of the Greeno home. So there are two streets that could come out of that, and certainly not in the interest of the neighborhood. A residential area less than 150 apart again. The desired reef is similar to the opposing side of the neighborhood. Birch and Patterson run parallel to each other. James was supposed to connect the two. On the Patterson side, a drive was created for a community of 60 condos. It's not a street, where 27 homes were to be built. So not only should the variance be granted, but it's the exact same entrance system used for Patterson Street in 1985. Third and final, the relief variance would protect the wetlands in the area. The wetlands which have been subject to past proposals that involve wetlands mitigation of, and I was here for this meeting, an underground retention pond underneath the condos, would no longer threaten the wetlands on the map. As one can clearly see, the variance relief will go a long way in making the lot more conducive to its current zoning, residential, go a long way into finishing the neighborhood that the founding fathers had in mind when they created the map of the neighborhood. It will end the stream of developers looking to overdevelop the area within time, and the law will allow, and if we let it go, we are seeing other developments that could come in that could be much more intensive. It will, again, I want to see it developed, and lastly, I respectfully request that the variance be granted on the above legal argument. And at that, I will leave it to the board.
You guys have any questions for him?
Go right ahead.
I was just, with the James Street, where, can we pull that map back up that shows James Street? Does that go into the wetlands, that street?
It goes across the wetlands. But again, we all drove over wetlands when we came here to this building. Right out here, little bridge over it. And again, the condos have mitigations. So the street still could be put there with mitigation. All you gotta do is go to the state. And again, if you look at how the street progresses, it progresses enough to the right of the wetlands as it comes in, that it wouldn't have, James would not have that much of effect. So if we look at the wetlands, yeah, go up higher,
Yeah.
go up higher. Yeah. If you look, see it there?
Yeah.
It would have minimal impact on the wetlands. Look, it goes straight across. It would be within the 100 zone. So it still could be built, just like it was built out here for this building.
And the houses up there, what am I looking at here, 25 feet away from the wetlands? Up
Yeah.
here, number 3?
Yes.
So that is within 100 feet of the wetlands, correct?
Yeah, but again, I can push them in further.
Okay.
Again, this was, my intro map.
Yep.
But because all I'm looking for is, again, I'm just looking.
You're looking for the
variance
variance right
frontage,
now, right.
And then I work all that other stuff out with, hopefully, the
Right.
building inspector.
So now we look at this, I mean, you bought the property knowing that there is not a hardship, but there is a variance problem, correct? I mean,
No.
it came with the project.
No,
It came with the property.
no, I can put a street in. I can go down to the planning board and request it be subdivided and put a street in.
And this driveway that you want to put in,
It's
how,
less impact.
how close to these existing homes are they?
Well, it would be much less than a driveway, than a street, because obviously I can make a driveway the size that, what is it, the width there, 40 feet?
Right here is 22.
Yeah, so the street's gonna be 40. With one sidewalk, maybe 45.
So how close to that house are you going to be? I mean, it's going to be
One house is going to be, I would say,
probably 10 feet,
no, it's gonna be more than that, because it's 22 feet. So let's
2
see.
feet, maybe about,
Yeah, so.
maybe
if you-
about
If you,
20.
yeah, if you do 55, he says he's 10 feet away, so at 22 feet, at 40, it's gonna be now 18, 20 feet away?
Just seems like a very small area for vehicles to be going up and down.
Oh, that's on purpose, because it's elders. That's why
Please,
No.
really, we need to get this done tonight. And we are being taped, so if you could just
yeah.
let us do the process, we appreciate it.
I'm trying to, like I said, when I talked to the engineers, I took all of the complaints from him, that I've been here to all of these meetings, and it was lights, multiple cars, everything else, and put that together, hoping the neighborhood would realize how much improvement that would be. And again, I'm not looking, again, I can put, like I said, and I'm not looking to.
No, I understand what you're
I can go for a
saying.
street.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind.
it's
going-
not a threat, it's just
I-
what right you have.
Well, I can show you that if we have the other map from the other packet, a development was proposed for 14 condos in the second packet. I can show you what that looks like. And that was 2013.
Have you looked at any
But
of that?
that wasn't accepted, from what I remember. That was proposed.
Yeah, here.
We didn't vote on it, correct? Right.
Right. And
So
I
they
wanna let
dropped
the board
that, so
know
we
why.
really can't be bringing that up. That was dropped.
What about
So-
the-
If I may, that was dropped because it was filed under trying to grandfather the old zoning.
The house in the back.
Nope, the old zoning allowed it to be commercial, so they wanted to pull the old zoning back, which was commercial for the area, when I had it restructured for residential through a petition article. So it was a grandfathering request.
Okay, I remember, yep.
So the problem with that one is that they should have asked for 12 condos, and they asked for 14, because they needed the zoning board for variance relief. If they had asked for 12, they wouldn't have needed the relief they wanted. They were just overstepping. So this was it back then, if we take a look. But this one, again, if you want, again, they were asking for too much, because they knew that to put the street in, it was gonna cost, I guess, money back then, or whatever the case may be. I'm not sure, because they had multiple investors, I'm guessing, because these are all developers, I'm just the owner over there with the extra pot.
Yeah.
So, but that's what failed last time.
Have you looked at the James Street area property? Is there any chance that anyone bought that, the two abutting houses?
Okay, so 2013, we see this come up. And so the deed for the right side, if I may, I can show the deeds.
Do we have them, too?
You should with my second packet, but, so in 2013, this was the proposal, okay? And again, it was too much, I agree. That's why I came to fight it, but I didn't know this was going on in the background, which is that, again, as you can see from the map, Mr. Greeno has 50% of James Street. He's entitled to that under the law about paper streets anyways. So it was like deeded or whatever for $1. If you notice the other one, the other side, goes into a Greeno trust. There's a reason for that, okay? First of all, the Greeno trust mentions James Street. So here it gives the deed itself, which puts together that it's on James Street. And you'll notice the date. And so the transfer was for $1. I'll let you read through it. You'll notice it's from the original owner, Petrol, and it's for $1. Anyone scratching their head yet?
No, there's a lot of different things here that,
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what this thing is. So if you take a look, the proposal by Petrol in 2013 is there, and then this date, this deed is signed, 8/7/2013. So it appears to me that someone wasn't going to oppose it because they were at the other side of James Street. But the map never got filed because the proposal never went through. Because why is there a deed at the same time of the proposal that we all came here?
I had a couple of questions too.
Please.
When did you come to control, either by title or by right of the property in question? And what, have you had that for a long time, or is that something
No,
you?
just last year. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you. That was last year. I apologize. Sorry.
Okay.
The speaker needs to be turned on, I can't hear anything. It's not on
there is no speaker.
There's no speaker.
Yeah. So I'll try to talk loud. So,
sorry, I should have mentioned
no,
that. That's all I did.
believe me, I wish you did, because I'm not.
So you acquired the property a little over a year ago? you said?
Yes.
Okay. And then you showed us a photo earlier of your mom and your sisters, which was fabulous. I like those
Yes.
photos. With the farmland in the background, but presumably there'd be something on that land prior to that, because I know in a lot of places in the US, people drain swamps and wetlands to put farmland on, so it's hard to, I don't know what it was prior
Well-
to, the establishment of farmland, so it's kind of hard to say that it never was wetlands. I don't know. I don't know one way or another whether it was or not.
I'm not saying it never was, I'm saying it developed, so it's there.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that wetlands aren't there, that's why I
Okay.
bought the property. Because every proposal prior to this wanted to build on the wetlands. And I didn't want that to happen. I purchased this property to improve our neighborhood, because we have a great neighborhood. And if people keep attacking the wetlands, eventually, they're gonna build on it, just like what they did the other side of the train tracks.
One of the-
People are gonna build on it in the future. I'm trying to protect it for ourselves, our neighborhood, and our children, so that that area is not built on, the wetlands.
A couple of other questions. Has the fire department looked at the layout you have here? Because I know that residences, residents, whether they're elderly or not, that matters. Obviously, you want them to be able to get in and out. But, you know, for the town fire department to get in and out of,
I have
Is
an
there
email
one?
from the.
Oh, you do have
I'm gonna
one, okay.
read it, I'll read it into once we go.
is it okay if you
Thank
raise
you.
it into the record
Yeah.
now? Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Again, I got an engineered map, so I'm assuming the engineers accounted for all that.
Okay.
I
Well,
paid for that map, so
yeah,
it's not,
Just
it's
wanna
not
make sure-
cheap.
yeah.
I'll read this into the record real quickly. A few questions or comments that the fire department has include the following. According to our records, there should be a fire hydrant located at 163 Birch Street, which would suffice to eliminate the need for adding one into the proposed area, although a more detailed plot plan with dimensions will be required to confirm this. Number two, I will want to see any engineered Abington fire apparatus turning plan, as I have concerns with the congestion. This is especially due to the proposed parking spaces located within the central circle. As any large vehicle, pickup truck with a trailer hitch, for example, could easily extend into the lane, limiting access for emergency vehicles. This is something we often see when we want to prevent this in another tight area. There also seems to be a narrowing leading into the proposed building 2 through 4 with no dimensions given. I'm unsure. I would also suggest calling this a new street, as the numbering sequence will allow no room for expansion, as all of these buildings will require an odd number from 151 to 161 to prevent confusion in the case of an emergency 911 call address system, assuming these are all single-family homes that are not duplexes. That's what the fire chief.
And on the fire side, there will be ambulances and engines going through here. That's a very important thing. Even what we're talking about here in the driveway, the snow, turning radius for the apparatus if there's a fire in there. 22 feet is not really that wide. It is something to be brought up, for sure.
Again, we're willing to work on the town. Like I said, I'm just trying to give the community what they want, which is not a street. But certainly, we can do the street.
By right.
It's 54 feet. The portion 4 that made the whole street was when Peg McGilvery, to the right of the greenhouse, sold an extra 12 feet to make it so it can be a road.
Is it my understanding, or it is my understanding, this is a vacant lot now, and there is not, other than
Yeah.
the field, there was
If you
no
take a look at the
structures on
map,
it prior?
yeah, if you take a look at the map, you'll see in the top right corner, you see that big etching there? That was a garage, and that foundation is still there. See the top big one that's between, towards the railroad tracks? That one there. To the right, it's next to 5. And then there is also another foundation on the other side of the wetlands, up in the top left corner. There was another development there. Again, see it there, at the top of the wetlands, right at the border of the wetlands on the left? So it's not an open green space. It's been utilized for many different things. If we look down to the right, I'm trying to preserve land for, if we go down lower onto Monroe Street. I'm leaving that open because I wanted perhaps parking for the people to use the rails and trails instead of backing up on Monroe Street. I also wanted, on the other side of the tracks, they're trying to develop a park, which is that Rotary Park, because it used to be a roundhouse. So I was hoping to put some parking down there. But originally, we have to decide whether or not it's going to be a street going in or a drive. That's the only reason I'm here. And I want to hear from all of you.
Any other questions on the plan?
Anything else?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I walked it today, actually. I went, just drove by, and then I did a walkthrough on the thing. Seems, it'll definitely be a lot of stuff in there, considering leaving that
Tight.
space for the, the
Yeah.
wetlands.
I mean, if it backs out to just 3 homes, I mean, it's got to be, you know, I'm trying to make that land something that will be reasonable in the spirit of the neighborhood and will be locked up so it's not developed anymore or not proposed all the time. Yeah.
Anything else from you guys? All right, so at this time, I'm going to see if there's any other town board members or town officers that would like to speak on this matter.
Huh?
Before the public.
All right, let's close that.
What?
Close it.
So I'm going to move this up there?
Yeah, if you don't mind. All right, so at this time, we're going to open it to public comments and concerns real quickly. Seems to be a little, animosity in the room, so everything goes through the board, through the chairman. You direct it towards us, and then we'll, clarify it. There's not going to be any back and forth. Just have a seat for a second, I'll get to you. So let's just keep it friendly, and, we're all neighbors here. We want to be able to get through this tonight. We're going to start by entering a few things into the record that emails, concerns, petitions. We'll do that first, and then I'm going to open it to the floor.
Okay, received a petition from the neighbors and abutters, February 17th, which contains 156 signatures in oppose of the project proposed on 155 Birch Street. Okay? I'm not going to go through all the names, and you can raise your hand if you like, but that's that. That's in the record.
Is William Dodge here tonight by chance?
He's not, he's sick.
Okay, because
He submitted
right,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the whole thing or just?
What was it you wanted read out there, Bill?
Points on it?
Do you want to mark what you want read?
Just these points here?
Yeah, and then, I guess just his conclusion in the back end.
It's just the conclusion, you think?
We'll do the points and then.
Okay, well, he made a number
bullet
of points. I'll just read the bullet points.
From who?
And then the conclusion from William Dodge, 37 Center Street. The first, he has an introduction, but I'll leave that for the rest of you to, address the issues you have. The drainage and wetlands problems, increased impervious surfaces and clear cutting of trees and vegetation will exacerbate the existing drainage problems in the area. See picture of, there's an attachment here of water being pumped on the sidewalk and streets by the resident of 19 Charles Street, Mr. Reynolds. Second point is, no mechanism is in place to ensure retention ponds are inspected by the town and properly maintained by condo associations. If retention ponds are not properly maintained, residents will see increased water in their basements. And they note Mr. Reynolds' complaint to conservation dated January 26th of this year. Retention ponds also create concentrated breeding grounds for mosquitoes closer to residents. Third point, stormwater management regulations changed in 2020 for properties larger than 1 acre and must be complied with. Point 4, water supply is insufficient for the town now. We've been advising all people who apply for additional homes that they have to go through the water department because we're out of our allotment of that. Traffic impact, adding more cars and trucks to an area that is already heavily used as a high-speed shortcut and has an existing high-speed railroad crossing. There have been many close calls between pedestrians and vehicles on that street. I seem to recall that the school bus pickup and drop-off location for one household had to be modified due to this problem. Next point is ZBA application for a public hearing submitted by the applicant. He says it wasn't truthful, but the existing frontage is reported as 54 feet versus the 51 feet shown in the plan. Sections of the roadway, sidewalk, roadway, retention ponds, and 3 residential units are clearly within the 100 feet wetland buffer zone, and 2 of those residential units border on the 25 feet wetland buffer zone. The project is within Abington's floodplain and wetlands overlay district, and no environmental impact statement or other info required by section 175-35 were provided. Mr. Reynolds is aware that this property is within Wetlands Protection Overlay District, as referenced in a letter dated July 22nd, 2005, written to Michael Hicks, Army Corps of Engineers, on Mr. Reynolds' behalf. Okay, the basic conclusion in his letter, I didn't read all of it, but will this be available for public review at some point, his entire thing?
Now that it's entered into public record, it will be available.
Okay. In closing, the property at 155 Birch Street should be kept as open space and never developed. The applicant has clearly demonstrated he cannot be trusted to properly address the numerous issues related to this project. He was untruthful about the existing frontage, wetlands overlay district, and disturbance of the wetland buffer zone in his ZBA public hearing application. He repeatedly disregards the law and the safety of residents by pumping water from his home onto the sidewalk and street, which has resulted in injury to at least one elderly pedestrian in her 80s who was injured when she fell in front of his home in the past and had to be helped home by another resident. Mr. Reynolds cannot be trusted to address these issues in the proper manner. I strongly urge that the ZBA deny this request for a 49-foot frontage variance. Sincerely, William C. Dodge, 37 Center Street, dated February 8th of this year.
Thank you.
For the record. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to the record?
We have numerous emails that'll all be completely entered into the record. I'm just gonna go over one that kind of hits a lot of the points. Just says, to the zoning board members, town management, and interested parties, the zoning board of appeals mission statement states with these words, the purpose of the zoning board of appeals and the zoning bylaws are to promote health, safety, morals, convenience, and general welfare for the inhabitants of Abington. You can uphold that mission by denying the variance for 155 Birch Street. The plans show a driveway between two homes where one elderly homeowner fears invasion of her peace of mind and quality of life. Plans for this driveway are to have 5 homes in a wetland area. It really is a road and will dominate the side yard of 2 homes with lights, fumes, noise, cars, pedestrian traffic. These proposed homes on this road is literally squeezed in a narrow strip between the 2 pre-existing homes. One particularly right on the living room side of the residence. The neighbors who have come to expect to see nature in their backyard will now see a development. There's even more poignant during this declared climate emergency. We must continue to save our nature, wild places, biodiversity, and the livability of the planet and health and welfare for the current residents and our own local town of Abington. We must protect our residents as we oversee that this area is protected. This development will destroy the way of life for tax-paying, long-standing citizens. Please deny this variance for 155 Burr Street, Marilyn and Dan. And as I said, we're going to enter them all in, but they all kind of hit on the same points.
Subject and points.
So, there you go. All right, so now at this time, we're going to open it up to you guys, one at a time. If you guys can raise your hands, we'll bring you up. Go to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and let's keep it very civil.
So we're opening up the floor.
Hello, my name is Dan Greeno. I live at 163 Birch Street, and I own 158 Birch Street, which is directly across where the road would come out. I know that there was a few questions, just getting down to the variance on the road. James Path. Mr. Reynolds says that, James Path. Well, James Path went to court in like 1978. Petrol tried to blow a road in there. Mr. Magnuson took him to court, okay? The road was closed by a judge in 1978. I don't own both halves. He's saying that I'm making a deal. I can't make a deal with anyone. So Bob and Mary have a deed for 20 feet by 165 foot from a judge in 1978 that was awarded to Magnuson. When I bought my house, Mr. Wolf had not done the deed. He never put his 20 feet in his name. All I did was hire a lawyer who went to the owners, the Petrol family of the property. He got their signatures, whatever. He was a qualified attorney, and I paid him $560 or $580, and that's how I have a deed and pay taxes And the only reason why it says Realty Trust on it is because the lawyer said that if somebody came along later on and tried to weasel their way in on James Path, that it wouldn't dirty my deed. So he was saying, kind of keep it two separate things, so that if all of a sudden you had to sell your house in a hurry, but he put something in land court or whatever, it would tie up. So that's why there's two separate, the Greeno Realty Trust. It wasn't no nefarious backdoor 13-unit, I don't know what he's talking about. But you had a question on how close the road would be to my house. It would be
Yeah.
11 foot 1 inches.
Okay, thank you.
From my dining room window. So
that's-
that would be
that's
about,
this one here.
you're driving the
Right.
UPS truck and we're looking at each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Aris submitted that photo down there with the berm on it.
Right.
Okay, so our yards are so much lower. Everyone's got water problems in the neighborhood. I went around, I did the petition, talked to everybody, and everybody's got, so that's to the right of Aris's house. So that was the original access out there. That's how you got out there. But when Petrol sold the house on the corner of Monroe and Birch Street, he sold his right-of-way. He didn't chop it off. That's how this piece of land got landlocked, was he didn't take his right-of-way off when he sold the house to the Davises. So then he tried to come in James Path with no deed, no permit, no nothing, one day. That's how it ended up in court, and that's how James Path was dissolved. And these guys, this has been going on since 1978. Nobody's, and I thank all my neighbors for coming out tonight, you know what I mean, it helps. It's been going on a long time, you know? So like I say, 11 feet, the proposed driveway, which we already really know is a road, would be 11 feet from my dining room window. An additional 4 feet that was not accounted for in the plan. Though Sean Reynolds claims that my land is higher than Birch Street, that is not the case. Bill, I noticed that you had some photos up of the wetlands that I had submitted there, some of Bob and Mary's backyard. Okay, so there's basically like a ditch that runs through that property. If you look at the photo on the, so there's a ditch, so if you come out to the grass and we can freaking walk right in, there's one more
Yeah.
photo of like Bob and Mary's. This was like 2 weeks ago. The whole neighborhood, this is their backyard. That is the ditch that is overflowing, you know, 30 yards out into our yards, okay? That would actually be the end of James Path. So James Path would go right into a wetlands, okay? The whole thing is wet. So now from Bob and Mary's, that's Bob and Mary's backyard. So as you go through the woods, there's a ditch there. And you'll see as he goes forward, you see the ditch is just overflowing, okay? One more. If you look at the picture on the right, that's wet. That's 40 yards across. Look at, you see the front puddle, there's a back puddle. You see there's no snow back there. That whole thing is a pond, okay? And so we've got an overloaded system and we're gonna dump retention ponds into this. You know, I don't really see it happening. I don't see how, in good conscience, we could even do it. So
could we go back to where your house is?
So my house, yep, we can
The
go
map?
back. So I'm to the left of the road.
So what were we looking at right now? Is that where the
Right
circle
there.
is, or could you point it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
for us? What you-
Yeah, so it would be. So
Can you zoom
here's
out a little
James-
bit on that?
Here's James Path. Here's James Path,
Okay.
Bob and Mary. This is on the wrong side. My name is on this deed. I have a deed. We pay taxes on it, Bob and Mary. This is right here. Like all that wetlands?
Yep.
That ditch comes out right here. So the wetlands comes out into our yards here, right?
The
So-
drainage. You mean, yeah,
Well, it's wet.
Okay.
It's 2 feet of water.
All right, okay.
So that,
Yep.
even though it's mowed, our lawn didn't dry up last summer.
yeah, I know, I used to live on John Street, and I remember very well.
So, as this, okay, yeah, so you've got a little ditch here that's overflowed, that was 40 feet wide up here. Now this is all chock full, but you know what? It's spilled out into our yards, okay? My yard would be considered part of the floodplain, the wetlands. He's saying, oh, this is the 100-foot. Well, yeah, it's 100 foot if you start here, but if this is the wetlands, 100 foot starts a lot closer to the end of his road.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm questioning, is his road even, in the wetlands? The proposed road. The new road, okay, light pollution, noise. I own a house across the street, now all the cars, boom, boom, 10 feet. That long photo shows a berm, the original right-of-way. So that's what he would have to build 11 feet from the side of my house. My house was built in the 1800s, rubble foundation, too much lime in the mortar, right? You're gonna be running trucks by my house, 10 feet from the side of my house. I'll be lucky if my foundation don't collapse, okay? So the new road would cause light pollution, water problems, all of which our entire neighborhood already has. My yard, Bob and Mary's, are in the photos. Floodplain wetlands, as the land out back has been filled 3 to 4 feet higher than our backyards. So in the 70s, they built, the guy who was running trucks out of there, he did driveways. So they dug up a dump truck load of stuff, they'd back it up, dump it in the wetlands. They had extra tar, back it up, dump it in the wetlands. That wetlands was bigger. You walk along it, it's one pile of tar after another pile of tar after another pile of tar. It's all dumped. So, you're going on by his plan, that's all like virgin high ground. It was filled in, So my neighbor's yard would be surrounded by a berm on all 4 sides, effectively making his yard a pond with no place for runoff. Allowing the road to go through would bring down our property values and disrupt our way of life. High-speed traffic, another problem on Birch Street, bus stop across the street. It's, my mother can barely pull out. You can barely walk across the street. The cars are going, 40, 50 miles an hour down that street. I don't see how you got, you could honestly, that's probably less than 200 feet from Monroe Street. Okay, one road coming out that they tear around the corner because they're going 50 down Monroe. Don't stop at the stop sign, come peeling around the corner. And now you're gonna have another road coming out there. I just don't see it. The curbing, he's got photos of the curbing on his road. He like wants to round off my lot for like curbing. If you look, that's like 15, 16 feet of, that's what they called it. I looked in the thing. If you look like here.
Can you move it up a little? I think he wants you to move it up, other way.
Up of the way. If you look like here, here's my house. He's got like curbing. This is my sidewalk. This is where I walk down the street. This is so they can take off and get going down Birch Street, but you want to round off my corners of my lot. I don't, see how he can like claim.
Well, he's claiming that it's a driveway, it's not a
Well,
problem.
I'm just saying, it's, I'm parking there, so if I park in front of my house and you pull up to the end of that street, which we've been parking there for 40 years, how are you gonna see what's coming up Birch Street?
Right.
Okay, both neighbors, not a lot of parking in the neighborhood, people park on the street, So, Sean Reynolds bought this land knowing full well that there was a host of problems with it. I originally offered to buy the land, give him money, work together with him to try and keep it as conservation, okay? Numerous times. I offered you what you paid for it, I offered the land behind your house, I
All right,
offered
he has a
$50,000.
right to talk, but
Okay?
Just
Yet
address
he
the point.
insisted he was buying the lands for conservation purposes and that it was not to be built upon. But now he wants to make millions off an abandoned, non-conforming lot in the wetlands at expense of, you know, my property values. You know what I mean? He paid $102,500 for this. You know what I mean? My property values would go down more, having a road 10 feet from the side of my house. He paid $118,000 for his house. So he's into his whole, he's got other ways in. If that's what he's intent on
yeah,
doing.
there are other ways in. I mean,
There are other ways
He
in,
could- he
if
could-
that's what he's intent on
you could buy
doing.
the houses that are,
You buy the
front,
houses
tear 'em
around,
down.
you know, and that's why.
that's being done right now,
It's
actually.
supposed to be 100 feet, it's so you're not tearing out in front of my house. I don't have to give you the whole front of my house so you can get going. It's not an on-ramp. John fought this for 20 years, yet nothing has changed but the owner, okay? We fought it, okay? I called the DEP one time, shot it down, whatever. We kind of worked together. I thought when he bought the land, he came and told me, I did it for the neighborhood, yada, yada, yada. I offered him money, tried to work with him, told him all the neighbors here were interested in working together. Everybody buys a chunk, we clean up the wetlands, and it stays as it is. But it wasn't good enough. And, you know, I asked that you reject this outright, just on the damage that it will do to me and what he paid for it. I mean, that's not really a financial hardship for me. I mean, you know, conservation costs money, Sean, you know, and you said that you were into it for the conservation and everything else, so it looks like you're into it for $102,500. Thank you for your time.
Oh, a quick question. The James Path, as you call it, or the right to use that road, I'm a little bit confused about who owns the right to determine what happens with that path? Is it you or is it somebody else? I'm confused. by that.
Well, in like 1978, it went to court. Magnuson blocked petrol. He went in, cut down all the trees. There's still piles of gravel. So he tried to do it in like one day. My neighbor like literally laid down in front of the bulldozer. We parked our cars there, blocked them until Mr. Magnuson went to land court and filed against petrol. I've seen the case, you know, it's a registered case, Magnuson versus Petrol, and at the end of it, Mr. Magnuson, the judge closed the road, basically. It went to land court, and the judge says, you cannot come in here. Then Sean mentioned that Peg McLean had sold Petrol 15 feet to make the 54 feet, but it's only 51 feet, where he wants to go. That was actually her whole side yard. That was never like another street or anything. That was a neighbor who, on the way out of the neighborhood, she made a little extra money selling it to Petrol. Petrol approached her. So that whole 51 feet would have been Aris's side yard. There was never a road there. This is kind of like hodgepodge together, you know?
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right.
Cindy McGann, 46 Charles Street. I don't know all the legal stuff. I do know that Mr. Reynolds is the only neighbor on the street right now that's pumping into the street illegally. It's frozen over. And I also know I want to keep the community safe. We had a child hit by a car years back because of the traffic and how fast everybody's going. That won't fix this. Please vote against it.
Thank you.
Jack Canal, 181 Birch Street. I'll start this off easy for everyone with a question. Hopefully you can answer. The road was actually Birch Street that is just redone, not this summer, summer before. I called the highway department. They did say that you can't actually dig into the road until 2026. So my question is, with that, I think some of these variances have a time limit. Would that be put into play here? I mean, if you can't connect to the road, if you can't dig into the road, what's the point of getting a variance?
Not sure how long a variance will, how much, do we have that information?
3 years to act.
3 years to act, so then you have to come in again and get another one.
Okay, so I mean, I don't want to say this is pointless, but until 2026, you cannot dig into the road.
If I may, an act is anything that begins the project. So if I pull the trees down, that's an act.
I don't know what you mean by act, but what,
In other words, to begin the project, that's the 3-year thing. In other words, it was to stop developers from securing property, kind of like what we see with gas companies seeking leases. It was to stop developers from securing property and never doing work on it until they had time. So, in other words, you get 3 years and you have to begin the project. So that can be putting this in, it can be anything that shows that you're continually working on the project. It doesn't necessarily have to be hooking up here. I have to look into wells and whatever else too, because I do believe in the water issue
okay.
as well.
Second point is something I don't think has been brought up, is the right to privacy. Right, if you look at this map now, and if I think you said you walked the property earlier today, it's woods, no one's looking in our backyards, there's nothing back there. We're gonna go from that to something that's fairly pervasively intrusive. If you look at how close these are to the homes, if you look at where they're facing, how they're facing, we're gonna have people looking in the backyards. We have a 6-foot fence, I understand. I'm 6'2". I mean, I'm gonna see it. So I think those are really the only points I wanna make, but, again, actually, third point, snow removal, if you look at the length of that road, where's all that snow going to go? When you push that aside, that's gonna go directly into the neighbors' yards. Again, flooding, it's gonna move it around, it's somewhat of a minor issue, but if you look at it, where's all that snow
It
gonna
turns out
go?
to be a major issue, but we're here for the variance, so.
Okay,
But no, it's a good point. I'm not saying it's not a good point.
all right, and that's all I had, thank you.
If I may, it would be handled the same way the condos are handled. Meaning that, you either get a dump truck and you put that type of snow in it.
Public comment.
I asked permission from the board.
You went to the chairman.
My name is Skip Hayward. As a former civil engineer, I totally agree with the majority of people here that I don't think it should be built near that wetland. But there's something that nobody's brought up, and that's available water in the town. The average person, according to the DEP and the EPA, is water consumption per person is 3,000 gallons per month. So if you've got 12 people there, you're talking an additional 36,000 gallons per month, or over 400,000 gallons per year. We can't use water in the summer, can we, outside? What are we gonna do in 10 years? You talk about your kids, what are the kids gonna do? You gotta think about this for the future, not just now, and not just this particular proposal, but others. We have 2 surface waters, one in Pembroke, one in Abington, and 4 wells. What happens if those wells dry up? What are we gonna do? You have to think of that also, and that's why I'm against this. Thank
So could you tell us what your address is for the record?
Yes, I'm at the townhouses off Patterson Street,
Thank you.
Stonegate Square.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, after the next one, I know it's up to you.
All right, go easy.
My name is Shirley Greeno. I live at 158 Birch Street. I've lived there for 58 years, and I do not want a road with, at 158 Birch Street, all the bedrooms are in the front of the house. And all the cars, Sean says that there'll be 12 units. 24 cars coming out, fire trucks going in, ambulances, Amazon trucks. We're already loaded with water now, and we don't want any more. There's wild turkeys that come in my yard. There's deer out there, there's salamanders. My 6 children that I brought up have all played out there all their lives, and I want the wetlands to stay the way they are. And he wants to put it 11.5 feet from my 2 granddaughters' bedroom windows and right next to their dining room, and have all the people come and have the lights shining in our bedroom windows. There's 5 little children next door that can't even play out in their front yard now with the traffic on Birch Street. He's saying he's gonna put in sidewalks. There is no sidewalk on that side of the street, and my granddaughter parks right there. They'll be coming out and they'll be hitting her. All because he bought a piece of land that he knew was landlocked, and that James Street, I was involved when they got in front of that backhoe. I'm 87 years old, and I was there. And they stopped that 20 feet and 20 feet. And the piece of land on the other side of Dan's house, Mrs. McLean sold that. My husband and I, the late Roger Greeno, we had a patch out there and a corn patch for 4 years. There's been never any road in there or anything like that. And there's been nothing out back other than Kelleher years ago parking his trucks out there. And then they put the blacktop in. This has gone before the board several times. Sean was one of the biggest opponents on it. And we didn't even know he bought it until I read it on Facebook. And by the way, I'm Rose Garden on Facebook. We didn't know that he had bought it, and my son offered to take a piece of that land and buy it, and he didn't want it. But then he wants to sell it to the town after paying $102,500, and he wants to sell it to the town for $300,000. And Sean says, well, us women should say, I believe. Well, I believe, I rest my case.
Thank you. If I may, I'm glad I helped you off the road that day when you tripped and fell, if you remember. So, again, okay, so in terms of the response.
Calm down, everyone.
Yeah, Cook was out there with trucks, so that's what I remember as a
I
kid.
didn't think we were going to have a back and forth.
Again, I get to respond, I asked the chair if I could
That's why
respond.
he held on for a second, you're gonna come up. It's just where there's so many people, usually we do his response at the end. It's just we're trying to go if there's something he wants to hit in between, just so we're all on the same page. If you have something commented on what he said, goes back and forth. Just trying to be
Yeah.
fair with
Back
everyone.
and forth is one thing, making a comment like you just made is a
Well-
totally
So below the belt.
That was not, that was.
Okay,
And nothing was-
I withdraw.
We can all be in
Thank you.
agreement on that.
Okay. So, basically, I don't want a road. I want to drive. It's being called a road. The second thing that I want to point out is that I'm not touching the wetlands, but I'm also not touching the land in between the wetlands and Charles Street lots. And that's because I do believe in the water. Whoever brought up the water issue, because that's going to be prime area for wells and everything else for our neighborhood. Because as you know, we need water, and we have water. In addition to that, I'm not proposing houses with any basements. These are all flat. It's, again, I understand the offers, and I understand everything. I was trying to be very transparent on Facebook because I want the input, but the key issue here is that I'm trying to keep it in a place where it can be okay for the neighborhood, because right now, if you have something residential, you have to pay residential taxes on it. I've gone and I've asked for the residential rate to be lowered. I have offered to Mr. Dodge the ability to go to the town and ask if there's any interest. Again, if there's an asking price, it gives a place to begin. And again, I haven't received any information. As far as the neighbors getting together, Danny did come to me and he offered me, I believe it was $50,000 for his whole lot all the way back in the middle of it, so it still would be void on each side, which would not accomplish anything but create more problems. So I just wanted to clarify those particular items.
Okay, yeah.
We got to move on.
Yeah.
Yep, and I thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Aaron Similaritis. I own the property at 149 Birch Street, which is on the opposite side of the track. I didn't bring any pictures of my mom when she was younger, but I do have a picture of my cat on my phone, if anybody would be interested. Kind of a ridiculous request that I say if you want to look at the picture of my cat. Pretty much what I see here.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just laughing.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
Pretty much what I see here is kind of ridiculous. We're here, I think, because there's a request for the variance for a road to go into a piece of property that's not technically on the request for this particular subdivision, or what have you, what you want to call it. So the request is, if I understand this correctly, the request is for a road,
A driveway.
a driveway, which is very slim description of this road, okay, into a piece of property that there's really nothing other than a concept plan for what is being built. So as far as I'm concerned, anything past the front part of this road is a farce, because if you allow the variance for the road into the property, tomorrow, this whole property, the development could completely change. The property could get sold with permits on the street, and all this could be completely
It has happened
changed.
before, yeah.
And then all of this is gonna start all over again.
Exactly.
Yep.
So why waste time
Because
doing all this through again?
people have the right to their opinion, like you are right now. He has the right to bring this in front of us, and we have to get all the information before we can vote on that.
Okay. And you can see the pictures of the property, of my property there that are floating around there, the berm that's on the opposite side of my property.
Which one is this now?
That one there,
Oh, that one, okay.
yep, that actually would, if a road was built in the middle, it's going to have to be elevated. I'm in the trades.
Yep.
I've done this before. This road would have to be elevated to allow all the utilities to go through. So I'll end up with a berm on both sides of my property, basically with a bathtub in the middle. Okay? And this property is wet land. The only way that you'd be able to mitigate any water in this land is to mine out the whole area and put an underground aquifer system there, which would probably, blow the budget to begin with. So the property can't really be developed, because any manner of area that you put, the retention ponds that you put in place, no sooner you dig the retention pond, it's already gonna be full of water. So I'm standing with the rest of my neighborhood. They've been fighting this a lot longer than I have. It's really gonna be a detriment to my property. I'm gonna have to spend money to deal with the extra water that's gonna pool on my property. We all have sump pumps, they're all brand new. So I don't necessarily want to have to incur an additional cost to handle issues created by his right to develop the property. So this is the reason why, actually, thank you very much for letting me talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jim.
So I'm Samantha Lofgren. I'm actually on Peregrine Road in Abington. But my concern is I do go over on Birch Street all the time. My family lives there. Crossing the street, the traffic, horrific. Major concerns there. The other concern is because it's not a road, it's going to be a driveway. Driveways are a lot smaller typically. So you're telling me that we can put a driveway 11 feet from somebody's house with it being smaller, but we're going to get fire trucks, ambulances down there in the event of emergency. You're also telling me that with cars whipping around, somebody cuts that corner wrong, they're going into a house. And that's something that also needs to be addressed and is a major concern. So how's that gonna affect everybody else's quality of life as well? Then there's still the water issues that have been discussed. We don't even have water for the town now, but we're gonna add in how many more people? How many more, like, most people have at least 2+ members of the household. All of these need to be addressed, and by allowing the variance, you're allowing this to push forward when it's detrimental to everybody and the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, board, thank you. My name's James Arena, I live at 60 Patterson Street as well. I've worked with, alongside the board of the condo community as well. Not directly, but indirectly, I have a lot of friends that live on what would kind of abut this property. And I've worked with the board a lot with the, what was referred to as the water mitigation for that property. And we've had conservation out as well in regards to that. So if we could, is there any way that we could scroll up a little bit?
You want to see the top of it?
Yep, I just really need to, if the board will allow, I just want to show something that doesn't show up on this map. And I do have a map myself. So here's your walking trail here. What's not shown in this is there's actually a 12-inch drainage pipe, part of that mitigation for the water. So what would happen is any of this will directly go through here. We've done a great job. Sorry, I didn't know it was touchscreen. Any water that develops here directly goes into the property. We worked with conservation over the last 3 years, making sure that everything's been cleaned. We had a storm drain company come in and make any minor repairs. Everything was cleaned. We actually had over 20 yards of debris pulled out of the storm drains due to that, because what's happening is we're getting all of the sandy material that's come from the property is coming through that pipe, and it's going through all the catch basins, and we're catching that and we're pulling that out. And here as well, these people already have minimal privacy because of the rail trail. And what's been brought up before is, nobody wants to look into somebody's backyard, especially where this property's been here since '86. So we just wanted to, make sure that between water, privacy, and everything like that, we don't want to, we've had a tremendous amount of rain over these last few years, and the mitigation system that we currently have has been able to withstand that. We've had no problems with conservation. I've worked directly with the highway department because we actually take all the water from Patterson Street. We're the only 2 catch basins on the street. So not only do we take all water from Patterson Street, we also take majority of the water from this property. And when conservation was out a couple of weeks ago, they did elevation checks, and this property is significantly higher. So in order to reduce that, you would have to cut down a vast amount of material out of here, even to get to level. If anybody, and I'm sure almost everybody here has walked that trail, if you look to the left, you can significantly see, how much higher that road is, just so that, we don't get any flooding on that walking trail itself. So, thank you much for your time. I do oppose this driveway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Abigail Greeno. I live at 163 Birch Street. I'm Dan Greeno's daughter. And I just wanted to come up here and kind of explain how much it's going to affect my life, my family's life. I was at this zoning board meeting, the last one in 2013. I was 7 years old. I opposed it then. I oppose it now. The light pollution, the traffic, like Miss McGann said, that was my best friend that got hit at our bus stop because the traffic is just, it's so awful. I can barely pull out. Mr. Reynolds' curbing, as my father spoke on, would be where I park my truck, where my sister parked that same truck, where my grandfather parked that same truck. And I really do oppose this variance for those reasons and all the reasons that people have said today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so at this time,
Well, you're going to be able to,
we're gonna close it to the public. Can we make a motion to close?
like to close, bring it back to the board, close it to the public.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
All
Aye.
right.
Aye.
You have to explain to them what that means, and they can't tell it is.
So at this point, we're gonna discuss for a moment anything before we give it back to...
Do I have-
Hang on a
We're going to give it back to you in a
Okay,
few
thank
minutes. The concerns I have, basically 22 feet is a driveway.
Yep.
I have concerns with the two homes that are so close to the driveway.
I do too.
They bring up a lot of good points about snow and stuff, but that, we really need to concentrate on the variance itself.
Yeah.
No matter what we vote today, Mr. Reynolds does have, or the audience does have, ways of, appealing. So, we keep that in mind. So we're just gonna make the best determination on this. I didn't like it when I first saw it back in the day, and I'm still not liking it today, so.
Yeah, it's very concerning to me, this, trying to get...
I've been on the board long enough to know, and Sean would know, because we were on the board together, that I didn't like it back then, any proposals like this.
Yeah.
But it's about it on my end. And I do appreciate everyone who showed up and everyone who signed the petition, and I hope, we just wanted to get this done, so we didn't want the arguments or anything back and forth. I hope everyone's satisfied with that.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Well, I agree that the, having a driveway into something that is 6 units doesn't make any sense to me, regardless of wetland units, or wetland issues or other things. It's too close to other homes, it would be a detriment to the adjacent landowners. The James Path or James Street thing could be, it's a whole separate argument that we don't really need to consider.
Yeah.
Right now, that can be brought up in a different way. I am very proud of our community for showing up when they were concerned about something. I think that's fantastic, so thank all of you for coming out tonight.
Yeah, I also agree. I see some of these issues with being driveway compared to a road. Just fire trucks, ambulances, the busyness of it.
And our vote here, whatever it would be, again, there are other options, so.
Yes.
But as a board, we want to look at this reasonably.
Yeah, there was we're not allowed to, not the drainage of water, but I know a couple of people brought up adding more water to the community. That's, in something like this, we can't take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So, although it is, an important thing, we can't even consider that when we make this decision.
Right.
Do you want to?
So at this point, did you say you wanted to speak for another?
Yes, please. Again, I'm the owner of the property, and I understand that people would like to villainize me. The point of this meeting, or the point of this whole proposal, was, again, America, the philosophy of land is for it to be used for its express purpose. And the town has put an express purpose of residential use on this. That's what the tax rate is, that's what it is. So, again, what I've heard tonight has been very helpful, because as far as water goes, I would probably go for wells now, because there's plenty of water, as a lot of you have said. So I can get wells to these houses, which of course would decrease some of the wetlands perhaps. Again, that I'd handle all with conservation, because again, when I went back to protect this, it was specifically to protect things from being built on the wetlands. And the proposal I'm making today, because legally land is to be used, is to make sure it's not on that wetlands. I will still own the wetlands. I will own the other side of the wetlands, because again, water flows that way. It flows towards my house. The condo community has brought up some of their mitigation. I've requested conservation to look at that as well. So again, I understand the strong feelings. I was hoping for a driveway, and it's okay. I just now know that I have to go a different route, and I didn't want to do that, but we will. And I thank everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
No, it's closed the floor. It's up to us now to make a vote, so. The chairman asked him to speak before we make the vote. That's how it goes.
I own the land.
So at this point, do we have a motion on this petition?
Where's the original thing? Yeah. Gotta find I would like to make a motion that we deny the request of Mr. Sean J. Reynolds at 19 Charles Street, Abington, for a variance under 175-29, frontage variance of 46 feet to allow a driveway into the lot at 155 Birch Street. The property is located on Assessor's Map 54, Lot 92 in the R20 zone. And that motion is based on the notion that something like this should require a road rather than a driveway, and it's too close to the adjacent structures.
Detrimental to the public.
What's that?
Detrimental to the public.
Yeah, detrimental to the public for that reason.
All right,
Do I have a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's unanimous.
I have one question before we leave. Is there like a 2-year thing now that it can't go in, like, be resubmitted again for 2 years?
For the driveway variance.
Yeah.
You can make other proposals, but the driveway variance.
All right, well, next time, see you again. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
I will be in touch.
I know.
Thank you.
You know.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Careful with the mask.
Well, take care. Nice to meet you. Take care.
You're awesome.
God bless you. You've been around a long time, yep. You've seen it all.
Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it. I just want to remind everyone, we still have other things to hear tonight, so
Thank
if
you.
you guys would like to sit down or continue the conversation on the hall.
Yeah, that was,
That's the copy.
well, that was good. Well, it was something.
No, so we were just doing this for the driveway, so that would be, you know. Yeah, some of that stuff we just can't consider when it's just the zoning part of it. Thank you.
Well, good luck. It's good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You feel comfortable with that? It's like the old days.
Yeah.
You and Mr. Shepherd.
I mean, it's still, it's still.
Yeah. You'll do what you gotta do.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're all leaving.
They're
Everything's good.
going, that's fine.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. This time, we're going to move on to our next public hearing. The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 9th, 2023 at 7:10 PM at the Abington Town Offices, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, on the petition of New Inlet LLC for a variance under 175-29 rear yard setback, 11 and 18 feet, to construct a fourth garage bay on the south side of the building at 109 Bedford Street. The property is located in Assessor's Map 53, Lot 260, 284, and 295 in the HC zone. Did I say 907?
907.
That's all
Excuse me,
right?
let me correct that, 907 Bedford
How
Street.
you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right,
All right.
open the floor to the petitioner.
Mr. Riley.
Hi, for the record, my name is Attorney Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, representing the applicant, New Inlet LLC, the principal manager, which is Mr. Jim Stone, who's sitting here in the audience with me. Part of my submission to the board was, of course, the application material, the application itself, a copy of the abutters list, and a copy of the deed to the property. I printed out a project description to give you a little bit of background in writing before we even start the hearing. I gave you a photo, of a similarly designed station in Hanson. We also submitted to you floor plans for the proposed addition, and I've submitted 9 copies of a site plan showing you the site layout, both existing and proposed. We are here tonight in a highway commercial zone looking for rear yard setbacks. This is a corner lot, so there are no side yards. We have 2 front yards and 2 side yards, 2 rear yards.
This a variance?
It is a variance, it's a setback variance, right. Mr. Stone is proposing, as you know, the existing building, this is the Sunoco station at the corner of 18 and 139.
Yep.
It's been there, it's been a gas station there since the 1950s, I believe. It currently has 3 bays on the right side. If you're looking at the front of the building from Route 18 or from Bedford Street, you may be familiar with it, but there are 3 bays on the right, and on the left end of the building, there is the small store and cashier area with some office space out back. There is pretty much, almost the entire parcel is paved with the exception of what we would call the rear of the property behind the building. I would refer to that as the rear. And it has existing gas pumps under a canopy, and it also has the separate standalone diesel pumps, which is over on the North Avenue or Route 139 side. We are asking for permission to build a 4th bay on the right side or the southern side of the building, so the bays would be all adjacent to each other. There are 3 now, we're asking for the 4th. A variance for the setbacks would be required because of the rear yard setback is normally a requirement of 30 feet. The building itself is already within 19 feet to that rear yard at the rear of the building.
19.79.
Right, so it would be an 11-foot setback variance to basically continue that same building line.
And what is behind, what is this 11 North Ave Trust?
That
Is there a
is-
home there?
It's a commercial building with an apartment above. I was going to say, that's Ken's TV, but you have to be a
Oh,
town.
right, no, I remember when was that, yep.
Yeah, okay, Ken's
I do,
TV, that's
yeah.
the building there.
Okay.
And,
Is there anything right behind there? That's what I'm asking.
no, it's...
No building right behind that proposed?
The building's up close, our neighbor's building is up close to
Close,
North
okay.
Avenue.
All right, very good.
And you can see our neighbors, obviously, on our plan to the right.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah. Right.
okay. So the proposal is, again, for a variance. This new addition, right now, where the addition is going to be, there are existing 2 outdoor vehicle lifts and some storage containers. If you drive by, you can see them there. They've been there for a while, and it's not the most efficient way to operate a business, especially in the middle of the winter.
Right.
Jim and I were talking where someone has to draw the short straw. One of the employees has to go out and work outside in the middle of the winter at times when there's a different type of vehicle. And, it is a problem. So his proposal is to basically build a bay right where those already exist. But the other benefit of doing this is that all those storage containers can now be removed because the items that are being stored in the containers can now be stored in the addition.
Mr. Ray, was there a permit for them to put those in at the time?
The
Those
storage
lifts?
containers?
The lifts.
Oh, the lifts, I'm not aware. I
Or did they just
didn't
put 'em there?
research that. I don't know.
Do you recall if there was a permit or anything that,
There was the makings of a lift
when you bought the place?
way back when. yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So the photo I submitted is probably the best vision of what this would be, but it would obviously be reversed. So the photo shows the structure down in Hanson, Massachusetts. It's up on the screen there, and you can see it's almost the reverse image of Jim's station, and then it shows a very similar addition to what he did. It would be a higher bay, and it would be the same type of peak roof, trying to keep the New England style. So it does a few things. The new addition will allow taller vehicles to be elevated in the indoor vehicle lift, and would also allow more indoor storage now. So the construction of the addition will not increase any impervious surfaces, will allow the property to maintain its required number of parking spaces, because we're not interfering with any parking. It will allow the owner to remove the existing storage containers, will allow the business to operate more efficiently and productively during the winter months, and will minimize outdoor mechanic work, which benefits the neighbors, and will generally just improve the appearance of the property. I believe the board was given an email from the planning board. We met with the planning board on Monday night for site plan review. They did approve this site plan.
Yeah, I did read that. Yeah.
And I have a copy of it also, so if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I can just read what the statement was from the zoning board, from the planning board to the zoning board. It said, the planning board approved the addition at 907 Bedford Street, the Sunoco station. The applicant is before the zoning board on Thursday as well. The board wanted me to share with your board that they support this project as it will bring all the work that is being done outside, inside. All the materials that are being stored in that space will be moved inside as well. The board also waived the landscaping buffer as a 6-foot fence currently exists. The applicant is trying not to change anything on the site except adding the structure to the existing impervious surfaces. So we did receive approval from the planning board. To go over some of the checklists for a variance, this is the only place we can locate that fourth bay. We can't locate it on call it the left side of the building. I know I wrote it out, but just for the record and for the viewers at home, the northern addition, if we were to put the new bay on the opposite side of the building where the store is, then you're gonna have issues when you're trying to bring equipment, and not all the equipment is handheld, some of it's, you have to roll it or whatever. You'd be moving equipment from one of the 3 existing bays across the parking lot in front of the store into the fourth bay. Not efficient, frankly not safe, because we do have customers coming in and out of that area. So that would cause some difficulties just in business operation. Second, the underground soil conditions create significant hardships in this regard, because the property is being used as a gasoline service station. There are underground tanks, piping, wiring, and sensors and safety improvements presently in place beneath the pavement. If this variance isn't granted to allow the construction of the building at the southern end, and the fourth bay can only be put on the northern end, then the business owner would be required to excavate and remove at least 3 of the 4 existing 8,000-gallon underground fuel storage tanks, which are now in place on the northern side of the building. This, of course, would be a substantial financial hardship due to the cost of removing not only the tanks, but the concrete tank mat, which is basically ground level and protects the tanks, the cost of the tanks and moving them themselves, the cost of excavating another portion of the site to relocate those tanks, and then the cost of reconnecting the relocated tanks would be insurmountable. Third, given the location of the existing building, the existing structure, the proposed southern location will not interfere or conflict with any parking spaces, as I mentioned earlier. It will not conflict with any of the underground fuel storage tanks, and will not require the removal of any gas storage pumps. If the fourth bay is required to be constructed at the north end, the business will lose at least 5 customer parking spaces and would likely lose the use of its existing standalone diesel gas pump island, which, as I mentioned, is on that northern side of the building. This would then require the extra expense of, again, excavating or removing an 8,000-gallon underground diesel fuel tank, and because there's no other viable location on the site to bury that fourth tank and reconstruct a new diesel island, the hardship would result in a loss of net income for this business. And the whole purpose of this is to try to clean up and improve and make this business more efficient. So for all of the above reasons, we believe that the proposed addition, as shown on the plans at the southern end, justifies and supports the approval of the requested setback variances. the circumstances involving the location and layout of the existing building and its garage bays, together with the issues which do not generally affect the, together with the concerns and conflicts arising from the location of the site's underground fuel tanks, are unique issues which do not generally affect the highway commercial zoning district, which is one of the elements of a variance. A literal enforcement of the rear yard setback regulations would clearly trigger substantial hardships to the owner, yet the approval of the requested variances would create no substantial detriment to the public good, nor would it nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of our zoning bylaws. Instead, the proposed addition would provide benefits to our most immediate neighbors by allowing the property owner to move his vehicle lifts and storage of materials inside the building. The variance would allow a longtime Abington business to provide more efficient service to its local customers and to enhance the attractiveness of the site and the building, and so we can invest in the future of this Abington business. So for all those reasons, and for all the information we've submitted, we would request that the board look favorably on our request to approve the 2 rear yard variances and allow this investment to move forward. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to help.
What is the distance from the proposed 4th bay to the fence, or the I was trying to see it on this, I didn't see it on this one, maybe I just missed it. Is your dimension? What is it, 12.68?
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
that is, okay, I missed that. All right, and that's a little, it's a little bit more over there.
And those residents have been notified of this?
Yep. Yeah, everyone, the abutters list I filed with you. In fact, I think the neighbor who owns the former Ken's TV also owns the building to our right. Mr. Hitchcock. So he owns the land on both sides of us.
The height. And you need that for the lift, correct?
Yeah, so we can raise vehicles,
Yep.
and I can elaborate a little bit more. Those storage containers hold lots of things for us to do our business. I'm gonna put a mezzanine up, I'm gonna store everything indoors.
Oh, nice, okay. So basically, you're gonna make everything indoors and easier for everybody.
Absolutely.
And by doing this, you'll be attached to the repair shop. Instead of bringing it over to the other side of the building, you're attached everything to the repair side. Everything's gonna flow.
Everything
Everything will
is
flow.
on the repair side.
Right.
Customers don't go anywhere near there.
Yeah.
Customers aren't allowed anywhere near any of the bays.
No.
Right, a person pulls up to have their tire pressure.
And again, those bays, those outside bays were there when you
Yes.
bought the place, okay. So
If you
those
were-
were approved a long time ago.
If you were to walk into the existing 3 bays now, there are no walls that separate the bays, so they can,
Oh,
basically,
back and
the employees
forth,
can share
yeah.
back and forth and the equipment shared. And as I mentioned earlier, that's the importance of us adding the 4th bay, connecting to it. So you, again, he'd be able to share the equipment, the testing equipment,
Right,
all that.
right. Everything would be combined and good. And also noise and everything will be
Indoors.
inside the building.
Right.
Not outside the building during the summertime.
Or the winter.
Yes, sure, right.
We have a great relationship with our neighbors, and in my 25 years there, I can tell you quite honestly, whatever we're doing outside, inside, there's no complaint.
Obviously, there's no one here.
We do what we have to do.
Right,
Everybody happy.
okay.
All right, well, I guess at this time, I'm going to open it to the public.
I was just here for the previous hearing, so if you say watch this, I have nothing to say.
All right, can we make a motion to close it to the public hearing?
Yes.
Move we close it, this hearing to the public and revert back to the board discussion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you guys have any?
No, I think it's a great plan. I think it's a good idea because it helps your business.
Thank you.
It's good for the town.
It is.
You're bringing everything inside, nice and neat. You've always been very good over there. I never heard any complaints, let's just say that. And when I drive by there, everything seems to be neat and clean, and basically, that's gonna help. That's gonna help you. Right.
So much nicer. I like neat and I like clean. That's my plan.
Great.
Thank you.
I don't have any concerns.
I don't have anything else.
All right, someone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the request for, the petition for New Inlet LLC for a variance under 175-29 rear yard setbacks 11 and 18 feet to construct a 4th garage bay on the south side of the building at 907 Bedford Street. The property is located on Assessor's Map 53, Lot 260, 284, and 295 in the HC zone.
Do you want to reference the plans?
Yes.
As shown on the plan submitted with the
addition.
The addition.
Substantial conformity with the submitted plans.
Oh, here we go again. What he said.
That's
He
As
loves
stated by
doing that.
Mr.
He really does.
Mr. Riley, yes.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, good luck.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Stay tuned, it's gonna be beautiful.
Thank
sure
you for
it
your
will be.
patience for
Sorry,
waiting
Gary,
through
I
all the
got
rest
stuck
of
behind the big
it.
one today.
Thank you for your patience waiting through the other part of the meeting.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so
All right, take care. Good luck with everything.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
at this time, anyone like to make a motion to?
Exit the building.
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.